Come on. Someone's saying Yakushiki. That's a yellow one. That's kind of gross to look at. Flak Fort, come on. Please, 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 please. Come on, please. What the frick? What is that? Oh my god! Who is that? Hyperion Gundam? What the frick is this thing? What is this? What the frick? What in the world is Hyperion Gundam? Wait. Okay. Okay, cool. We get a new unit every month. That's cool. The Hyper update. Frick, are you kidding me? From sea to stray? Balance, the next Gundam Evolution update, the best update so far. Absolutely, glove. Because today, Harbor City, like I said, it's gonna be the best update so far. I'm gonna love playing Mahiro. No laser kills, but you know. So it's like, once you have your Trans Am, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Trans Am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait for it. 10. And then again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Pilot, are you alright? The mission is still underway.
Real quick, this video is a follow-up to my last video, My Gundam Evolution Experience, so if you haven't seen it, go do so. It covers how I came to discover the Mobile Suit Gundam series and gives a basic, and somewhat outdated, guide to the game itself. This video will cover what has changed since, and cover the units I couldn't cover before. That being said, at the time of writing this, I have personally finished watching G Gundam, Iron-Blooded Orphans, 00, the subsequent movie Awakening of the Trailblazer, Keeping Up with the Witch of Mercury, and the original Mobile Suit Gundam. And at the time of recording this, I have just finished watching Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. I now have way too many Gunpla, and a much more extensive knowledge of the suits in the series, thanks to the other Gundam game I've been addicted to called SD Gundam G Generations Overworld for the PSP. And thanks to Gundam Evolution, I was able to see awesome growth both on YouTube and on Twitch. My first Gundam Evolution video has gotten over 3,000 views, and because of the Great Defensor delay, my stream was the longest running on said day in the Gundam Evolution category, and because of that I became affiliated on Twitch and still regularly stream Gundam Evolution. So I'd like to thank everyone who has subbed, commented, liked, followed, chatted, and so on for supporting me and my work. As for the game itself, Gundam Evolution has gone through 3 seasons, starting its 4th at the time of recording this. It took a while with the script. Along these seasons, 4 mobile suits have been added, furthering the roster of mobile suits you can play as. Console versions of the game have been launched, and to help find more matches, the regional servers have been merged, now being Asia and North America and Europe. Events are now somewhat uncommon, rewarding players with capital and all sorts of cosmetics. Among these changes and additions, each patch has come with balance changes for units, some good, some bad, and some confusing. While we're on the topic of units, in my last video I decided to swiftly cover the free units because at the time, nobody could try the paid units and everyone could play the free units. Meaning that aside from tips I could give, players would be able to figure out the free units and all their tricks in due time during gameplay. However, with having a few now unlocked and people being able to try them in the practice range, I'll cover the paid units because until purchased, with your sparingly little capital, you may not be satisfied with your unit purchase afterwards, as practice range experience is not one-to-one with match experience. Now, my advice, spend your capital on your favorite suit or show rep, and that's pretty much how most people have decided. But if you just want a suit for gameplay, or you're fairly certain there's very little chance for your favorite suit to be added, or is already in as a free unit, let this section be a sort of unit buying guide if you find yourself on the fence about what units you want. Mahiro is the dedicated grenader suit. Think Demo Man from TF2 or Junkrat from Overwatch, but a lot more direct when shooting. By that I mean, instead of lobbing grenades, the grenades have a more straightforward arc. Grenades also travel a certain distance before detonating, so you can't mortar strike enemies from miles away. Mahiro's first ability is, for me personally, the most fun part of the suit. Mahiro's forward front kick is exactly how it sounds, but with a bit more swag. When the kick connects with an enemy, they'll be knocked back, and you'll be sent flying backwards so you can continue bombarding your target. If the kick connects with a wall, you'll be lifted for some vertical height, so it's good for scaling some walls and ledges. Mahiro's second ability is a particle cannon, firing a laser that deals damage that then detonates the area around it a few seconds later. So this script is written before the laser change, so yeah, I'll get to that later. This ability helps with stopping or disturbing an enemy push, but does render you immobile. That is unless you encounter a bug with Mahiro that I have coined as the Mahiro Drift, in which you continue to move while firing the particle beam. Mahiro's next ability is a close-range scan that highlights enemies close by. Unfortunately, scanned enemies are only visible to you, so unless you tell your team where they are, don't automatically expect backup once you start firing on them. Finally, Mahiro's G maneuver enables you to dual-wield grenade launchers, allowing you to fire 6 grenades for a short period of time. The grenades fired also split into more grenades after a certain distance, allowing for more damage among a wider area. Hitting grenades onto an enemy before the split causes massive damage all at once. This ultimate is best used for pressuring the enemy team back or clearing them from the face of the earth entirely. Alright, Mahiro must knows. Surprisingly, Mahiro can hover for much longer than normal, a lot like Methus and Ashimar. You can gain some height by kicking off of a wall into hovering so you can have a better vantage point over your enemies, or to peer over a wall so you can fire at them. Also, keep in mind that Mahiro is a bit squishy, so it's recommended to fire behind some cover, unless you absolutely have to contest an objective. With that in mind, you shouldn't even be able to see the enemy team 80% of the time, that is unless you're in an open area, which is very much not Mahiro's forte. Now, my personal advice is Mahiro is only as restricted as your imagination is. As long as there's a wall you can bounce grenade off of into a group of enemies, Mahiro is an extremely fun and deadly unit to play.
Zaku II. Melee!
The other Zaku II mobile suit that wanted to be a lumberjack, Zaku II Melee, calling it Melee from here on out, is your second choice of melee mobile suit. Equipped with the large Heat Hawk axe, Melee slashes at the enemy, generating a mid-range slash attack that can pierce through enemies. If you can get within hugging range of an enemy, attacking them with the axe itself will deal bonus damage. As a secondary action, Melee can bring up a shoulder to guard, though not by much. Attacking with your shoulder brought up does perform a shoulder bash, useful for breaking shields, though not enough for a full stun, so don't be a fool like me expecting it to stop a bomb plant or defuse. Melee's first ability proper is Survive. Upon activating, you gain immortality, but also immobility for a short period of time. Getting shot in this state builds up your rage meter, which I'll cover in a moment. Melee's next ability is similar to its normal ranged attack, a shockwave that travels indefinitely, dealing hefty damage and piercing through whomever is in its path. All of Melee's attacks and abilities all contribute to filling up the rage meter, which ties into Melee's last ability, Zeon's Rage. Upon filling the rage meter to full, you can activate Rage, which gives you a temporary armor buff, as well as an attack buff that lasts as long as the rage meter decays. There is a downside to this, but I'll get to that later, please be patient with me. Finally, Melee's ultimate turns you into a high damage team-wiping Beyblade. Spinning into enemies deals loads of damage, filling the rage bar very quickly, which can be activated during your spin to deal even more damage and turning you into a nigh unstoppable suit shredding sensation. Now, playing Melee is all about building your rage meter, which also decays over time if you don't attack for too long, so playing aggressively is the key. Strike enemies from afar with your shockwave ability, trick enemies into shooting at you and survive, get into their faces to hit them as much as you can. There's only one problem with all of this, you get shot. Like, a lot. Despite the expansive kit, other players, unless new, understand how Melee works. Keep your distance, hold your fire while Survive is active, circle and then jump the Melee when Survive ends. Melee is a slow and clunky suit to play, meaning giving chase to enemies is quite hard to do, as well as building the rage meter, because unless you have a dedicated healer, you'll find yourself low on health or dead before even coming close to activating it. Though, there is a way to more easily reach the peak of your power, by playing with your team. Be a terrifying presence to the enemy, like a bulldog on a leash, poking at them from afar with shockwaves, defending your bomb planting or bomb disarming teammate using your body and survive ability. Shoulder bash shield users for your team and you to take advantage of. You pilot the mobile suit of a high-ranking commander. Gather your team, nay, your forces, and lead them into victory! Crush your enemies, trample them into oblivion, and take the victories you give your all for. Your all for the Principality of Zeon!
Unicorn Gundam.
Ah yes, the most advanced suit in the series, from what I hear at least, equipped with a beam Gatling gun. The gun is effective at mid-range, good for pressuring enemies back, and when aiming down sights, great for shredding them. The recoil is a bit strong, but you can get used to it with time. Unicorn's main ability is technically his passive, a slow AoE heal which in a recent update will add an extra 100 armor and overheal. Now, something important to note with Unicorn's heals. The healing area is quite small, and has a very particular bubble, not able to heal through walls nor around corners. Really kinda based off of a line of sight deal, so try to be wary of your environment when playing with a Unicorn. Alongside this passive and its bubble is the Unicorn's first ability, the Psycho Field Armor Boost, which applies 300 armor to allies and yourself, which begins decaying shortly after. Very useful mid-fight, giving your team an edge against the enemy during the heat of battle. Unicorn's final ability is the Shield Funnel, and when available will highlight an enemy for attack. Activating sends shields flying at the enemy, firing while in flight, then connecting with the enemy deals damage and knockback, bypassing shields. It can be interrupted mid-flight if someone or something comes into its line of travel. It's best used when you have a surefire target without much to get in the way. Finally, Unicorn's G maneuver summons the Beam Magnum, a long-range 5-shot rifle. Each shot deals great damage indirectly, given the cylindrical area around the fired beam, and massive damage if the beam itself comes into direct contact with an enemy. You can't boost while firing the Magnum, but you still are free to dash and use your abilities as freely as you like. You do become suspended when you fire the Beam Magnum, so make sure you're in the proper place to shoot, so that way you can't be caught off guard. Now, the trick I've found best to play Unicorn is to play very cautiously. Unicorn is mostly unable to defend itself in a fight, especially when caught out in the open, so playing from behind or around cover that's tall enough to cover your towering suit is a must. This next gotta know is one that goes both ways, whether you will play Unicorn or not. Team, stick near the Unicorn. Slow healing or not, it's still healing nonetheless, and especially with the armor boost it helps everyone a lot in a team fight. And Unicorns, be aware of your team. Make sure you keep that little number above 1 or 2. Once you see a 3 or more, that's usually a good time to armor boost, and with such a lengthy cooldown, you're going to want to make the most of it. Other than that, Unicorn is a fun unit to play, a unit that can heal without too much input, and killer offensively from a range.
Gundam Heavyarms Custom.
Endless waltz!
The newest mobile suit, other than Dynams, Heavyarms is the Gundam mobile suit wielding 2 sets of double Gatling guns, only using one as the primary fire. The Gatling guns run off of an overheat meter similar to that of gun tanks, so do keep in mind when firing. Heavyarms' secondary action brings up the second set of Gatling guns, allowing for much more damage. Though, not without downsides, bringing up the second set of guns takes a hot second to do. Having both sets out slows your movement, leaving you vulnerable, and firing both overheats both sets of weapons much faster. Luckily, you have 2 options that help you get out of whatever trouble you find yourself in. Option 1. There is no penalty to putting away the second set of Gatling guns, so going back to primary firing will continue firing the first set of Gatling guns and returns you to your normal walking speed. Or option 2.
Do a sick flip away in style of your enemies.
Heavyarms' first ability, the Moonsault, not only makes you feel much cooler and flashier, but it also launches you high into the air and into the direction you were moving in. It helps immensely when you're positioning and getting away from hairy situations in a pinch. The arc of your jump is so drastic and sudden that it throws a lot of people off. The only downsides to this ability is its lengthy cooldown, so it's important to use it when necessary in battle and familiarize yourself with the game's maps, so that way you don't follow up your sick flip with an embarrassing crash into a wall or ledge. If you didn't think that Heavyarms was fire enough, then the second ability of his kit, the Shoulder Missiles, ought to convince your enemies otherwise. These shoulder missiles will fire in a random array at the area you fired them at. If any enemies are hit or even scratched by the missiles directly or the detonation of, they will be afflicted with a burn effect that lasts as long as GM's detonation bombs. The cooldown is ridiculously short, so setting the enemy team on fire as much as possible is an incredibly powerful strength to have in a team fight. The only downside to this ability is that the missiles don't fire immediately upon activation. There's a bit of delay, and you have to be sure that where you look is where you want your missiles to go. You can't pre-fire them from behind a corner or else you'll set yourself on fire. Experience. Lastly, Heavyarms G maneuver, hatch full open, makes use of every weapon built into the suit, pouring out as much damage as possible in a burst in front of you. Once activated, you become locked in place, unable to move or use abilities until the ultimate is over. You can overcome these flaws by using the abilities beforehand. Most commonly done is moonsaulting into the air and hovering. Using your ultimate while doing so gives you a better vantage point and spread for damage, as well as continuously moving in the air, making you a harder target to hit. Heavyarms is a very beginner-friendly suit, so if I were to have any more tips for Heavyarms, I'd probably echo what I'd said with Unicorn. Put pressure on the enemy from near cover, especially with how limiting movement becomes once you use your moonsault. Some people say to use your missiles before you ult if you're able to, but personally for me, it makes very little difference. Heavyarms is also blessed with the fact that it comes with no damage drop-off, so you can poke at enemies from afar without any loss of damage, just a loss of accuracy. Other than that, Heavyarms is basically a unit that you get if you want to be cool. It's very fun and very fun, just very fun to play. I love him. Now, it's painfully obvious that I skipped over the other suits. Let me explain. I wanted to cover the suits that I own and have had experience with to give as helpful and insightful advice as possible, rather than doing a basic explanation with hypothetical tips that may or may not work in theory during actual gameplay against very real and very much thinking people. So, I thought I'd invite some others from the community with actual experience with the other units.
Gundam Exia.
So before I start this off, I do want to say that this script was written some time ago, back when Exia's timers and damage was different, but it has changed now, and while I've accounted for it with this new script, I did want to say this because some of the stuff makes less sense now, especially regarding in terms of play style. Anyways, on to the actual script part. Hello pilots, Gundams, my name is TMCraze, and I'm here to talk today about the suit that requires the most effort or rewards none of it, Exia. But it is the most fun, so let's start on a lyre now and go through Exia's kit. For Exia's left click, it fires 3 G and beam daggers in a burst, each dealing 100 damage individually to the body and 150 damage to the head. The beam daggers have no fall off and are classified as projectiles, so you have to lead the daggers slightly to hit faraway opponents. Exia's right click is G and sword Russian slash. Exia will extend the blade out of its G and sword, charge up energy, and when you release the right click button, it will shoot forward with a huge burst of momentum, stopping when you collide with an enemy. Russian Slash has a few quirks to it. For one, it'll charge the visible mirror to full at 1.4 seconds, but you can hold it for an additional 1.4 seconds after you acquire your target. Normally it's on an 8 second cooldown after you use it, but you can cancel it with a left click to shorten it down to 4 seconds instead. There's also no way to stop the momentum you gain unless you hit directly into a wall. That means you can use your right click into a corner and you'll zoom past it with no difficulty. It also does 300 damage at full charge and 160 at no charge. Exia's E is G and short blade, rotating slash. Exia will strike in a circular motion with the G and sword, and the G and dagger it pulls out from somewhere. I don't know where it pulls it out, but you know. And it will do 230 damage. In general, rotating slash is the ability you'll be using the most, as it's the shortest of all of the abilities at 5 seconds. It also hits behind you. Lastly, it knocks the enemy back 100 meters. Last but not least is Exia's F, which is Quick Step. Exia literally just dashes in a set 100 meters. It's influenced by where you're looking and what key you're holding, but the key you're holding takes precedent, so if you're holding W and looking behind you, you'll still dash forward instead of behind unfortunately. It's also the ability with the longest cooldown at 13 seconds and ignores collision from enemies. And then there's Transam, the titular system given to all mobile suits in Double O at the end of Season 1. Transam augments and enhances all of Exia's abilities and lasts 15 seconds. That's also a small spoiler, but it cannot be helped with, the abilities and everything. The right click now does 600 damage and has a 5-second cooldown, making it the most valuable ability while in Transam, as you'll only be able to use it twice. You now get 2 charges on Exia's F on 5-second cooldowns, and Exia's E now turns into a cross slash, which shoots you forward 100 meters and knocks the enemy back hit by a minuscule 3 meters. There's some nuance to using Transam, but I'll go over that in the next section. All that explanation, and I haven't even gone to what you can do with those abilities, so let's do that. Exia is a mobile suit that really focuses on the mobile part of a mobile suit. You're using all your abilities to being an annoying wasp that the enemies are trying to swat at, if I had to make a comparison. However, the problem lies in the fact that Exia only has 800 HP, which doesn't seem like that much of a problem, but when you're a melee unit trying to go against other mobile suits with your low HP pool means that taking a couple of pot shots will send you retreating to Mahiro for a heal. As another Exia main put it best, your HP pool is just a timer for when you can use your right click before you die, and when you start out as Exia, you will die. A lot. Now on to some of the funky things you can do. How you G-dash as Exia is unlike other suits. Exia's regular dash is already the same distance as any other suit's G-dash, and its half dash covers such a minuscule distance that's not even worth incorporating. So instead, how you G-dash with Exia is a regular dash into a sprint, which is actually significantly easier than the standard G-dash. As I mentioned when talking about Exia's right click, you can slam into a corner and you'll dash right past it, so long as you aren't facing it head on. This opens up a ton of possibilities where, say an enemy is trying to escape past a corner, you can dash right into the corner they're trying to escape with, hit them, and do the one-shot combo and get out for free. But what is the one-shot combo that I just mentioned? It's simply right click, 3 left click headshots if possible, and then the E. This is your bread and butter combo if you're looking to kill, as doing the E into left click will often result in pushing the enemy into a hard at the worst of it, and at the best, still escaping with the G dash out, or killing you outright. One more thing for me to mention before going to Transam tips, as a baseline. Please only use the right click for engaging, and your F for disengaging. If you do that, you're already better than most other Exia players out there. Now Transam tips. I alluded to this while covering the G maneuver initially, but your right click is the most important part of your kit. It front loads 600 damage to your enemies at a full charge, so you should be looking to land one of the 2 right clicks you have into an enemy first and foremost. You can also do the Genji thing from Overwatch and leap into the area using your abilities first before popping Transam, but the higher in the ranks you go, the less effective it becomes depending on how you do it. Another thing that another Exia main told me is that when in Transam, you should save one of your Fs for engaging and the other for disengaging, using both typically results in death because you ran out of dashes. Also your E can be used for verticality, make use of that information as you wish. Now if you want to see someone attempt to put all these tips into action, you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/TMCrazeXD or search for TMCraze on YouTube and take a look at the VODs and highlights I have on there.
And thank you to Craze for covering Exia for me.
Marasa. New Gundam.
G'day ladies and gents, Supernalboot aka Super here, or Boot for you weirdos, and welcome to today's unit information and explanation on the new Gundam. And no, not new or Mew or V Gundam, what is wrong with you people? New, as in new, or the noise you make when you fall off the edge on Harbour City while defending and you left spawn during prep phase.
Well done.
Very good. Very good. Good work.
Anyways, new Gundam is what I would consider a heavy class mobile suit. And what do I mean by that? quite a bit of health, 1300 to be exact. This is close to the larger units like Sazabi, and speaking of size, New Gundam works out. He is one of the larger units in the game, however this has been offset with a higher than usual base speed. New Gundam contains 1 bar of dash, which you will be needing to use sparingly as your size is not very beneficial for you. New Gundam's main weapon, the beam rifle, is a very, very nice piece of kit. With basically 0 recoil, this thing is scary in the right hands. It holds 10 rounds of ammo and has what I call a very long range. Not as long as Sniper or Dynamis, but long enough that far distance isn't something you worry about unlike other units. The gimmick with this weapon is what I call the tag system. When Nu lands 3 shots on a target with the beam rifle, the enemy becomes tagged with a funnel symbol above them, which is a great segue to explaining New Gundam's first ability. Fin funnels can be launched from New Gundam at a specified target within a certain distance from you. I would say about medium range and have a cooldown of 9 seconds. If you select a target with no tags, 2 funnels will fly out and deal damage to the enemy and follow them. Each funnel does 4 shots before returning to New Gundam. 2 are sent with 0 tags, 4 with 1 and 6 with 2. These funnels are pretty nice, each one doing 55 damage each, and if you'd like to join me for a quick maths lesson, sending funnels on a target with 0 tags has a damage potential of 440. 1 tag with 880 and 2 tags for a total of 1320! Now, you might be wondering, but Super, isn't that a bit broke? Well, little Jimmy, I'm glad you asked because you are totally wrong! These goddamn funnels couldn't hit the broadside of a damn barn, even if your life depended on it, and by God does it in some situations! This is where the balance is for the fin funnels. They will decimate your target standing still, but not when they move. You will be lucky to even get 1 or 2 hits with these bad boys. New Gundam's other ability is the new, not new, Hyper Bazooka, which is a great mobility asset for Nu. When used, Nu will move in a direction that is the current movement key being pressed. So if you are holding W or joystick forward for you console gamers, New Gundam will move forward with a half dash. While doing so, a rocket will be shot wherever the crosshair is currently placed, dealing 300 to 100 damage in a small area. Nu can also change its direction mid-use, allowing you to spice things up for the enemies. By pressing W, if you were to then press any other direction key, Nu will then proceed to move in that direction. Very handy. Another cool factor about the bazooka is that it also tags enemies, but remember, it only tags enemies you have already damaged with your beam rifle. New Gundam's G maneuver, Fin Funnel Barrier, is a complete incorrect description of this thing. You'd probably expect Nu to launch all its funnels and massacre the whole enemy team for an easy team clear. Oh no, wait, that's Sazabi's move. Anyways, no. Nu sends 5 of its fin funnels to create a pyramid barrier. The pyramid surrounds New Gundam and moves wherever you are, shielding you and others inside it from damage. The 6th funnel will then fly around to whomever you are aiming at and deal damage. The shield has 3200 health and will end after about 15 seconds. During this time, the single funnel takes the load of the others. When you tag a unit and use your funnel ability, no damage buff unfortunately, use this super with your team to get a push forward or defend an objective. Do be wary though, as the shield may stop bullets or beams, but it doesn't stop other units entering, so you still need to be wary of those melee units. Hopefully that is a decent enough summary of the unit for you, and I can give you a quick rundown of everything I have learnt while using the unit. I personally will recommend getting out of your head to get 2 tags on enemies. While yes, it's a lot of damage potential, it is often countered by the enemy running away or you getting domed by a sniper. Or getting comboed by a Barbados. Try to aim for 1 tag and send the funnels while still peppering your targets with your rifle. Only in very good cases get 2 tags on enemies and watch their health deplete. If you're lucky enough. Fun thing I like to do is pop my G maneuver and get the plant off, have saved me multiple times in those last few seconds where it counts. I cannot stress this enough, but learning how to change your movement with Nu's bazooka is an absolute must. You can even do this in midair, but only on a vertical plane and not horizontal, unlike Exia's dash, which you would have seen earlier on in this video. Speaking of bazooka, it is very useful against those pesky melee units. I like to dash towards Barbados, because it's the last thing they expect you to do. If you can land your shots well, your HP will outweigh the damage Barbados could do with melee swings. The rifle, like I said, has no recoil at all, which is very neat and the first I've seen. If you can land your headshots, you will melt most units with a 225 critical damage to the head, 150 body damage, and 112 to arms and legs. New Gundam's G maneuver has its own problems that you don't really notice at first, and one of them is honestly very rare but can happen. Your single funnel will not target downed enemies just like Methus' turret, so do make sure you mop up the enemies yourself because your funnel won't. Your shield, although being a triangle, does not, I repeat, does not cover you below. So you need to be very cautious on maps with grates on the floor, or if you're standing on a ramp with an enemy below you, because chances are there's a sniper scoping in, ready to blow your leg off. Your shield can also clip through walls like Hyperion's aura shield, so enemy suits will be able to shoot it if you're up against a wall and they're on the other side. My go-to combo is to land a single hit on a target and knock him with the bazooka for a free tag. Send in the funnels and get some shots in. Most units will feel the pain. Stay back, however, your health is a placebo effect and you will not tank damage, at least not much, so keep a nice Harry pack nearby to give yourself a boost and fight and claim that victory. As for counters, I don't really know many that feel counter-ish to this unit, like snipers will hurt of course. Melee units are a pain when you have no dashes or bazooka charge. I guess a few units that come to mind will be Heavyarms or Gun Tank. I don't recommend going up against these targets up close or if they are full health. Unlike Sazabi who can tank a lot of this damage, you can't. Apart from this, in my opinion, New Gundam is a very basic unit from a technical standpoint, but feels like it needs a bit of skill to do good with. Landing your shots is a must with this unit, and you get punished hard with only 10 rounds and about a full second reload. Thank you all for joining this Australian, explaining the ins and outs of New Gundam, and hopefully my accent hasn't hypnotized you off for the past 15 minutes. And don't forget... Super out.
Hyperion Gundam. Due to my incompetence, I'll have to cover Hyperion myself, pointing out the things I've seen Hyperion players do that annoy me as tips and tricks for the unit. Hyperion is the other tank unit next to Sazabi, built with as many shields as there are tank units in the game. 2, that is. We'll touch on that in a second. Let me start with his main kit. Hyperion is a frontliner, given a beam submachine gun to fit. Despite the tank handle, Hyperion doesn't seem all too tanky with a health pool of 900. However, holding your alt fire brings up a shield, much like the other shield units. This shield has 700 health, pretty hefty for a wrist shield. Now, what about that other shield I mentioned earlier? Well, that's Hyperion's first ability, the Armure Lumiere? I'll just call it the bubble. The bubble has a set health of 1500, but only lasts for a few seconds. The bubble's health and timer are tied together, so it getting shot makes it last less longer. Hyperion's second ability, the... I don't know how to pronounce this one. The piercing shot passes through enemies, dealing pretty decent damage to whomever gets hit. It's like an on-demand, fully charged turn A shot. And finally, Hyperion's G maneuver, the Bubble Lancer, charges you forward, snatching up any enemy getting in the way, stunning and damaging them as long as the ultimate lasts. It does come with the downside of being unable to turn on a dime, but still a solid maneuver overall. Now, things that annoy me that Hyperion players do. Why do they annoy me? Because the enemy Hyperions always do these, but never my team's Hyperion. The bubble is extremely versatile. Despite the long cooldown, using the bubble to shield yourself while enacting an action is its main use. Planting a bomb, defusing a bomb, and reviving a teammate. Unless as a melee unit ready to harass you, you can pretty much get away with any of these scot-free. It's also a tool you can use to scare people away from objectives. So many times has my team been forced off points because of that wretched bubble. I've even seen the bubble be used as a form of cover so the Hyperion can make a hasty getaway. Long hallways are Hyperion's friend for using the piercing shot, as well as the Bubble Lancer. Very much like a horror movie scene in GunEvo. Heads up for the G maneuver though, as turn A's grab is immune to the stun, and can toss you into enemy lines like a fish out of water. Though, you can fly while in the Lancer state. Attempting to fly over turn A or catching them by surprise by way over a wall is a stylish way to counter the grab. But apart from all that, Hyperion is a pain to deal with, and is probably more useful than what people give it credit for. Alright, with that all out of the way, let me quickly cover some of the more basic things that I forgot to include last time. Most of these will be covering the game modes because some people seem to have trouble with some of the game modes. Destruction maps. Easier to attack and defend the plant sites when your team split up into 2 groups of 3, or, especially for the attacking team, to just do so as a team. Planting both bombs at once usually ends in at least one of them being planted. Capturing the capture point is also paramount, which is obvious for the attackers, less so for the defenders, but important all the same. especially when the bomb gets planted. Oh, especially on maps like Underground Command Center, where the walk from spawn to site is dreadful. And shield units should almost never plant the bomb, but instead be the ones to protect the bomb planter with their shields. Even melee can do it, as mentioned earlier, so I don't want to hear any excuses from anyone else with a shield. But I will understand if it's a Barbados that stopped you from protecting your bomb planter, or diffuser. It happened to me before. Domination maps. Simple. Be the team to dominate the 3 capture points for the longest until the end. 2 tips for this one. Capture the point as fast and as for as long as possible. Someone starts capturing it, contest it to the best of your ability. Never let them have what is yours! On Lunar Colony, if the round starts with points B or C, hold the urge to attack the other team until you get to whichever point will be active. Going to attack the enemy beforehand through point A very rarely works, and I've lost almost every game I've seen my teammates try. Just follow the blue lines on the floor and you'll get to shoot the bad guy soon. Point capture. Take turns capturing and defending 2 points as a team, simple as can be. Sending one person to backcap the point is a good distraction to confuse the enemy team. And once you've started capturing the point, 3 teammates can go on forward to pressure the defenders, as only 3 people are needed to be on the point for maximum capture rate. If you go into overtime, choosing mobile suits with G maneuvers that take the longest to charge are good to choose, as everyone starts with 50% charge at the start of each extra round. Units like Turn A with his Moonbeam Butterfly, or Dom Trooper with his Screaming Nimbus. Or you can choose the fastest charging ultimates, pressuring the enemy team as fast as possible and hope for a nice overtime blitzkrieg. Let's see, what else? Oh, Craze told me to talk about G-dashing. Bit of a trick to get more use out of your boost gauge. Goes like such. Dash normally, but stop moving in the direction you were going in to stop the dash halfway, a half dash, quickly followed up by boost sprinting. This recovers your boost gauge much faster than it normally would after a dash, and it's especially useful for units with only 1 dash to work with. This is probably tougher on a controller, but doesn't mean my console viewers shouldn't at least try. What else? Once you've downed an enemy, you should finish them off. Because I have had one too many games that I've lost where my team would neglect the downed enemies, they get picked back up, and we lose the round. And the match entirely. And try to restrain yourself from picking up teammates that are downed and in the line of fire of the enemy. It's almost never worth it. Alright, the script is coming to a slow, so let me briefly cover some other things so that this video doesn't drag on for too long. Server merging means that more matches can be found, but most matches have wonky matchmaking that are hit or miss. I'm talking, I'm level 85 with levels 1 through 30 on my team, like,
But, you know, what the fuck?
At the time of recording this video, Dynams has been released, and I'm gonna get him when the time comes.
And they buffed Mahiro's laser. Let's go! The Mahiro drift is a thing now!
Bit of a shame of what happened to new in Exia though. Oh, and the new Harbor City is good. Like, really good. Oh, big shoutouts to the people still doing Gundam Evo videos here on YouTube. Firespyke with the coverage, Dwheim for the radical SFM animations and models, and everyone else I can't mention off the top of my head from Twitch and YouTube. Especially on Twitch. I'm talking Craze, Gifted Gab, CyberRank 10, just a lot of people that still stream Gundam Evo to this day. And, hey, GunEvo team, I wouldn't mind if I got an invite to some events as well, you know. I consider myself pretty prolific in the community by now. I've been getting recognized in some of my games, so I'll be checking my emails. Besides that, thank you all for watching this video and following up with me after the last one. It'll probably become outdated just as fast as the last one, but you know what? That's fine, it's just how it goes. Now, I don't want to bloat this video with clips like the last one, so I'll just put a few at the end here. But with all that said, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all continue to enjoy the game as much as I have. And I will see you in the next video, or on my stream. Now, on to the clips! Oh my god! The Claymore setup! Get him, Seiko! Good god, that was beautiful. Get back here! We're not done with you just yet! Holy frick! Grabbed him over the ledge and pulled him back up. It's Alright, I love Feynar on that. They won my heart.
Preparations complete. Pilots, begin your assault.
What a cool comp. I mean, they both take in space. They're both sci-fi, so it makes sense. Oh! Oh! Whoa.
Triple kill. Overkill. Kill-tacular. Kill-trocity.
That's for my boy! So yeah, after I get the units I want, I'll get Exia. Someday. Oh my god! A raging Methus boosted melee? Holy frick, dude. Boot, what were you thinking? That was perfect too. Oh my goodness. You madman. A small, a fast, small target that's shooting back. Yes. Wait. They won't see this coming. They definitely didn't see that coming. No reses are getting me so. Well, no one's gonna get res if no.
Meanwhile.
What kind of punch was that? What? He went down?
Like, he was mid-air, he punched, and I don't know.
Jesus, dude. What the fuck? Unreal.
Or it's me. I don't even know.
Whoa! Oh, I'm running away!